Good evening. Welcome to the East St. Paul Planning Meeting. I'll call the meeting to order, the time being 5:35. We started a little bit late, apologies. Can I have the resolution to adopt the agenda?
Be it resolved that the agenda be adopted as presented.
Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Imhoff, second by Councillor Duval. Call for the question. All those in favor? That's carried. Moving down to item number 4, confirmation of the minutes from the March 11th meeting, please.
Be it resolved that the council meeting minutes of the March 11th, 2025 council meeting be approved.
I have a mover, Councillor Posthumus, seconded by Councillor Duval. Call for the question. All those in favor? That's carried. We don't have any delegations this evening, but we do have a lot of people in the audience, which is nice to see. So welcome. Hopefully we can entertain you a little bit tonight. Moving to item number 6, public hearings. We have one public hearing, 6.1. Can I have the resolution to open the public hearing?
Be it resolved that council open the public hearing of council for conditional use 6, 2025 for 3316 Raleigh Street.
Please.
Here.
Councillor Duval, seconded by Councillor Imhoff. Call for the question. All those in favor? That's carried. The public hearing is now open, and I will give the floor off to Mr. Planner.
Thank you, Mayor. As you know, this is conditional use number 6 of 2025. It's for a property located at 3316 Raleigh Street. And the purpose of this is to allow for the construction of a new family dwelling and for a farm use within the development reserve zone. So the development reserve zone is an interesting zone that you have a lot of restrictions on this. You're allowed to have a house if it's already existing, but everything else is a conditional use. It has to come to council for approval, including a new single family dwelling. In fact, that we even extended to an addition to an existing single family. So that's what the folks who want to do. They want to build a new house on there, so they need a conditional use approval, as well as they want to have a small chicken coop on the property, which would be a farm type of use, which is conditional in your zoning bylaw. Here's the subject property aligned with the block there. It's about 5 acres in size and a flag shaped panhandle type of lots. And here's what's on the property right now. You can see there's a couple existing buildings and existing house that we wants to remove and then replace it with a new house. And you can see a chicken coop sort of in the middle of the property. Should council wish to approve this, there are the 2 standard conditions in your docket that this is limited to what's being proposed. Any changes would have to come back to council, as well as that they obtain all required permits from our office and the municipality, as well as I believe there are a few other conditions related to the farm use or the chicken coop, being that the number of chickens permitted on the property shall adhere to the regulations in the zoning bylaw. There's a number of animal units per acre that are allowed, and I think this is about 3 1/3 chickens. I don't know what that means. So between 3 and 4. I have to read your interpretation by law to see if that gets rounded up or down. No roosters are permitted. That would be it. So, if you have any questions on that, I'd be happy to answer them. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
We'll just go in here for 6.
Yeah, I was going to ask if you could do that. Okay, council, do you have any questions for the planner? No? Okay. Do we have the applicant in the audience? Are you Chris?
No.
I'm not going to try to pronounce your last name, but okay. Would you like to come to the microphone and speak to the application?
Like, just give a little overview.
Yes.
Sure. My wife and I purchased the property in January, and we're under the impression that we need to require a conditional use to put a single family dwelling on there, as was just stated. So we'd like to demolish the existing structures that are currently non-livable, and we'd like to put a single family dwelling on there. and have a small chicken coop for personal use for eggs.
Thank you. Just a second, because we might have some questions. Council, do you have any questions for the applicant?
I don't.
Okay, do you currently raise chickens?
We do not.
And it's just for personal use, you want to?
Yeah, it's just for personal use, just for the eggs. My wife said, yeah.
Okay,
Maybe
Councillor Duval?
you heard the planner say that the maximum number of chickens is 3.
Yes, I heard that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And is it Kevin? Yeah, do you want to speak to the application? You're signed in for support. You can either speak or you can just support. Okay, thank you very much. We don't have anybody in opposition unless we have somebody online in opposition. No. We do have 2 individuals signed for information. Do either of those individuals want to speak to the application just for information? I don't see any hands, so we'll leave it as is. Okay. So we'll close the public hearing.
Sorry, Madam Mayor,
Yes,
sorry, I scribbled down a note here for our planner. I had a question for.
go ahead.
Now, do we have any of these approved chicken coops anywhere else in the municipality? This is kind of an odd situation here, but it's really like a residential area.
Yeah, so generally, chickens are the non-commercial farms, which require a minimum of 5 acres and are generally in the R farms. So that's the only other zone that's able to have them. And so since I've been here, we haven't had any applications for them.
Thank you.
I thought we had an application in the past for chickens. No,
We've had that one recently on, well, they haven't actually come forward yet, but they're out.
no, I thought it was probably in the 2018 term. I thought we had chickens. Do we have anybody in the community that has chickens currently?
For chickens.
I'm sure they do.
No, I only want to know if they're in compliance.
And
Like, not that I know of, they probably were prior to my time, which has been, 8.5 years. But I know we do have some non-commercial horses, and it doesn't always just have to be chickens. There's like a list of animals on non-commercial farms, like horses, chickens, goat.
Right, so we have horses. We know that we have horses.
Mhm.
And recently, new horses. And we also have goats.
Mhm.
We have goats in the community. And is there something else that we have?
Not that I know of. Oh, we did.
But you believe that there's chickens in the community?
I get a lot of calls about chickens, so.
You get calls asking for chickens or complaints about chickens?
Calls asking for chickens.
Okay,
So then my question was, have we received an application and approved any?
we can have a
Remember in my time.
Okay.
8 years.
Thank you.
Councillor Posthumous, just use your microphone so the audience can hear you.
Yeah, so the stipulation, you said that it should be at least 5 acres, is that what you were saying earlier?
Yeah, so generally, so the DR
5
zone,
acres, it's a hobby farm.
so generally it's in the R5 zone. It
Mhm.
requires a minimum of 5 acres, and there's a lot of regulations around them. The DR zone is a special zone. There's very few properties on DR, so they would still have to follow the regulations. Zone.
Okay, thank you.
So just out of curiosity, because if the DR zone sounds difficult for landowners and community, were we trying to move these into different zones? Is there any? We are?
I would like to move these properties into R17 with the zoning bylaw update.
Okay, but I appreciate like wanting to, but Derek, have we been moving to change these zones?
No, we have not been moving to change these zones actively doing that. My understanding in the past, this will go back, I believe, 2 zoning bylaws or so. Council put in the development reserve zone in order to have a second look at anything that might come up for the that might hinder long range planning for certain areas. So You had a big swath of land where the municipality, for example, was expecting a new subdivision for expansion of the community. You don't want to see a house right smack dab in the middle of it, that might preclude standard engineering. Extension of services, that sort of thing.
Yes.
That's was my understanding of it. It's pretty typical in some of your bigger swaths of land municipality. Or we've also seen them around the intersections, the highways, where municipality knew about highways plans over the course of 30 years to improve the clover leaf, which is now the big sweeping thing there. And there's a DR zone too, preclude people from just building in the way of slow expansion. So that's why you've had the DR zone. That's in my understanding.
See. Okay, yeah, because some of the homes along there, they're not, I wouldn't say they're new, but they're probably within the last 15 years, a few of those. And so I assume they all were a DR zoning.
A lot of them are, and it does limit them. Like, for example, if they even want to put up a shed, because there's regulations like 50-foot side yards, they have to keep coming forward for all these variances, right? So that's why in certain of the smaller lots like these ones, it is problematic. That's why I would like to see them rezoned to residential. I mean, they are used as residential, so while they're using them, it should have the right to at least put up a shed without requiring a 50-foot side yard.
I'm assuming that they're DR because there's so much land
Around it.
in it that's vacant, that they wouldn't want to hinder future development.
Certainly the case.
It's all farmland.
So when we're considering conditions as tonight, we're considering what that will look like into the future as well, right? Because these lands in the next maybe 20 years, I don't know, will eventually probably develop.
See on the map, the dark green is the development reserve zone.
Yes, because they're bordering residential.
Farming right now.
Okay, any other questions? Councillor Duval?
Yeah, it seems that the DR zone means there's no zone at all. It does not have any specific zone attached to it. If you can't even put a house up without asking permission, and it's kind of farmland. So, and that may be suitable for outlying areas, but as the town grew up, we have some of these DR zones immediately adjacent to highly residential zones. So, why can't they be, and I guess the only party that can rezone it from DR is the landowner, is that true, or we can?
Well, it's sure this is straying beyond public area a little bit,
Right.
but
It is.
just for council's clarification, there are two different individuals that can rezone a property, either the property owner or council.
Okay,
Through your own bylaw amendment, you can say, let's rezone an entire area to whatever zone of your choosing.
so some of these areas, we can see them clearly, are so close to the residential area. They should be rezoned to something, even if they're rural residential 5, which means it's still wide open to put just about anything down from there. I'm surprised that the DR zone is interpreted that way, quite frankly. Anyway, but you're right, Mr. Planner, we're deviating a little bit from the public hearing. Thank you.
Happy to have that other conversation.
Yeah, we are a little bit, but it's the consideration of requests that we have to consider the future of development and how that might look. Because when we're making decisions, we're making decisions that stay and move in time. And so as land develops around, we want to make sure that everything is compatible, right? And so I appreciate that some of these DR zones exist so that development can be considered and approved in a mannerism that complements community opposed to hindering neighboring properties. Okay, so if there's no further question, yeah, sure.
So the RR5s are all 5 acre?
Correct.
And there's RR5 behind, other than the DR, we saw a large farm, and the adjacent neighbor was a couple of the properties together. It's also a large area. And behind them is a large farm. Okay,
Okay, so I'll have the resolution, just a minute, I'm just thinking about this one. If we, for some, I just want to make sure that we're not in case this becomes a tabled item. Is it better to keep the public hearing open? Can you just advise on that?
Yeah, sure, if you. I guess it would depend on why you would want to table. this.
Yeah, I understand.
So if you want to table something requiring, just needing more time to contemplate this, then I'd say close the public hearing.
Okay.
The public hearing is just about obtaining information
Sure.
on the application, whether it's from the public, the applicant. So or from administration. Information or have a question of administration, I would even say it's fine to close it.
Sure,
Ready to want you to make a decision one way or the other,
Okay.
so I think that's probably fine.
okay,
If you do want to table and adjourn this, we would have to say when you're going to adjourn it to continue.
okay, thank you for the clarification. Okay, so I'll have the resolution to close the public hearing.
Resolved that council close the public hearing of council for conditional use 6, 2025 for 3316 Raleigh Street.
Can I have a mover, please? Counselor Imhoff, seconded by Counselor Postumus. Call for the question. All those in favor? Public hearing is now closed, and I'll open the floor up for discussion.
I see no problem with this. It's a large piece of property, even if it goes down to R5. Farmland behind him, farmland beside. He's building a new home, so I think he'll be. Well, it sounds like a young family. They'll be there for quite a while. 3 chickens in a coop. To me, I actually saw this in Toronto in some yards. They're just had it on W5 or whatever. It's a common thing. People want grass-free raised chickens, the eggs. And it's a small chicken coop. I did notice on the, I don't have it on here now, when they laid it out, it's towards the back in the open land, but still, on the property line, if they ever did subdivide off the back half of it, it's fine, like, there's enough land there. Yeah, and it's 5 acres, that fits the bill.
Okay, so I took some time to consider the request tonight, and I didn't want to miss any of the points that I wanted to address. So I'm just going to read some of my points for council to hear. The application presents an opportunity for us to determine whether circumstances in the community have changed and whether there's a desire or justification to revisit the bylaw. And so approving this request may set a precedence. We should be very clear whether council is prepared to handle future similar applications or a broader policy review. Of course, we see the lot size and we know that it's a considerable lot size, but we also know that adjacent properties are smaller properties. It is really in town centers. So as much as we have these larger lots sometimes in the community, we also have neighboring communities close by. And so concerns with that would be, is there noise? Will there be odor, visual impact? I know the property well, it's heavily treed. So some of those things might not apply. Another thing to consider would be, will the chickens attract wildlife that wouldn't necessarily be there if there weren't chickens? And then that's bringing wildlife that we already have in the community into our town center where individuals let their animals roam in their yards and so forth. So will it attract more animals? And I think that, we're talking about the coyotes because right now, of course, we have a problem with them as well. And then, of course, always we have to make sure that the municipality can enforce this, meaning do we have the resources to monitor, enforce any of the conditions? And is there, if there's complaints, do we have, you know, the resources to handle that, and how will we handle that into the future? So I just see that it's not a hearing just about one household tonight. It prompts a larger question, which is, does the community want to change in the rules around backyard chickens? And so for us, we could approve this tonight or deny it tonight, but maybe there's a reason for council to review this. I really thought that we heard a request for chickens before. I'm not certain of that. We'll have to pull it up and find out. I didn't know we had goats. That's kind of interesting. I know we have horses, but is there a desire for individuals to want chickens? And how does the community feel about this? Of course, Raleigh is a street that's not really traveled it's not traveled by many, right? It's a street that most will try to avoid because of maybe the condition. You know, it should be wider and it should be in better shape. But I'm just saying, how many people in the community saw this posting and are aware that there be chickens in the area? So just some things to consider, because maybe this is something that council needs to consider looking at in a broader light. So those are my comments, and I'll go to Councillor Duval to see if he has anything that he wants to add.
Yeah, I personally don't see any problem with 3 chickens. It is a treed area, as you mentioned. There are some residential establishments around there, but they're few and far between. Predators, you know, there's always that chance, but they're around anyway. And if they get in the chicken coop, they won't last very long. Perish the thought, but I can't see any problem. And as far as you know, this DR zone, there's already a house on it. There has been for a long time. It's just being replaced. It's 5-acre lot. I don't see a problem, and I'm in favor of this application.
So just for clarity, I'm not questioning the home on the property. Of course, there should be a home built there. That's not what I'm questioning. I'm just saying, are we considering this as one application, or are we considering this as a community application, meaning that it will set precedents? And I mean, I will say that chickens can not smell well, and they can, you know, cause complaints as well. So I know it sounds, I'm just trying to be devil's advocate, where I'm saying it sounds like, oh, 3 chickens, that's no big deal. It could cause problems, which, you know, we will have to enforce. And then so I'm just putting out some questions that for you to consider.
No, I can appreciate that. And perhaps we should ask this application to be split into 2 applications. One for the home and one for conditional use as having a chicken coop.
So what we'll do is we can decide if you're in favor of both, like there's 2 things presented here. And we can just adjust the resolution accordingly. So if you just want to approve the house, we can, you know, just remove the chickens.
Mr. Planning?
Likewise, to your planner, yes, you can approve all or part of this. You can also add conditions to all or part of this. So that's fine. If you don't have the farm use for chickens, you don't have to exclude that part. Or what I've seen some municipalities do, they say, look, we're fine with one part, but we're not sure about the other part. We'd like to put some limitations on that in terms of time.
Mhm.
Okay.
We're okay with that use for a period of 5 years.
Mhm.
5 years, they need to come back to us if they want to continue it. Let's see how it's going. That's also an option. You can have that as a condition number down here. Where if chickens are limited to what's in the zoning bylaw, no roosters, farm use or chicken is limited to the time of expire, whatever you're choosing.
12 months, 3 years, 5 years.
Whatever it is. So that's an option for council as well, just to throw that out there. So you're with that.
Okay, thank you. Thanks. Councillor Duval, do you have anything else to say?
Nope.
Right, Councillor Imhoff?
Yeah, I'm I have no issues at all with the application for the home. Makes total sense. I think the thing that bothers me is there's no specific policy for, and this is, I think our planner mentioned it, somebody else did too, the Councillor Postumus, that this is becoming more and more sort of accepted in cities and developed areas. But I think it needs to be approached carefully, and we should develop a policy that can be applied to, and we should specifically state exactly which zones that policy can be applied to. And I think we might be getting ahead of ourselves here, maybe creating some problems down the road if we approve the chicken coop today. But 1000% the house, no problem.
Yeah, so I agree with you. I think that if we approve the house tonight, and then we, you know, with the help of our staff, go through this policy and maybe create, sorry, we shouldn't say policy, bylaw, review the bylaw, maybe make some alterations, maybe make some changes, maybe not, but have a bigger conversation around this, because I don't think that this is just an application that should just get approved. I think that there's some things to be considered. And it's not that I'm against chickens by all means, or somebody wanting to live off the land or do anything, you know, in their yard that is permitted. It's just, I want to make sure that the RM's ready for it, because right now we don't have anything structured around it. So it's important for us to be prepared as well. So I'll leave it to you, our experts, to tell us how we can deal with that tonight. Whether we're tabling one of them or if we're. Would you like 5 minutes to consider?
It's tricky because it's one application.
I know,
it's
yeah.
One resolution.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah. I don't like when sometimes when something seems like it needs to be approved and something that it can be controversial is on the same application, because it makes it very difficult for us to move forward in a direction.
Sorry, I think the challenge remains with council, and if you like one part of it, you go to reject it, you can reject the entire council. Unless council comes to a consensus on the resolution that it should only be for the house and not for chickens, then we'll vote on that, that's fine. House restored and chickens done, it's fine. That's the council, sorry.
You have to be clear before you vote, in order for us to have the proper resolution in place, so that you know that you're just voting that brings the house.
I understand that. So Carrie, I'm just wondering, is there, or whoever wants to answer, is there a way to approve? I guess not, because if we make a decision, then the decision is made on the application, but so we can't even table a portion of it because we're making a decision on the application. Well, that's not great.
Yeah, the problem is you don't, then if they come back, it's a second conditional use, which costs them money.
Madam Mayor,
Mhm.
I'll throw this idea out there. If council is to vote on just one part of this, perhaps what I would suggest is we craft the resolution to approve just one part of this application, keep the house separate. You would be in fact rejecting the farm use tonight. However, the applicant would like to bring this back of just the farm use for discussion at a vote amongst council. I'll cover the cost of that. We'll make a new application, we'll have to re-advertise and bring it back next month, if we can bring that back as just an individual application. Maybe we can just leave it to the applicant if they need to pursue it at that time, or not. So you'd be voting on approving the house and rejecting the farm use tonight. Leave it to the applicant. If they want to bring the farm use back as a separate application, I'm fine with covering the cost.
Right, however, if council changed a bylaw after with, stipulations are structured around chickens, then he wouldn't have to come back to council.
That's correct, and maybe we can have that discussion, I say the administration have that discussion with the applicant about timelines and what that all means.
I just don't know what those changes to the bylaw should mean tonight. But I'm approving something that is not permitted.
My sense is that council's okay with the house, would like to see these people go forward with building their home, so.
Well,
that
I
would
mean-
be the way we do things.
Yeah, and I hear there's two different stories happening up here, but we'll see what council wants to do. So I'll open the floor to council. I myself I support approving the home. I would like to review the bylaw and ensure that the municipality and community is ready for chickens. So that's my opinion tonight. And we'll call a vote either way, but I'll open the floor for everybody else to indicate how they want to move forward. So,
I thought you're fine.
Yeah, no, I believe that's what I kind of suggested in the first place, is to split it up into two different applications. One for the house right now, which is the biggest lead time and the biggest project by far. The owner would certainly like to get started on that as soon as possible, and we are prepared by general consensus here without having yet voted to allow him to go ahead with that. The question of whether the chicken coops are allowed at all can be addressed in the meanwhile. And he can come forward as offered by the planner at some time in the future if he wants to pursue that hobby. And by then we should have some sort of a policy or however we want to deal with it. But let's get him started on his home now.
okay, so just for clarity, Councilor Duval, you understand that when we vote tonight, if we move in that direction, we are turning down the chickens and approving the house.
Yes,
Okay,
absolutely.
just wanted to be clear. Councilor Imhoff?
Basically, I said my piece before, so I'm totally in support of the house
Okay.
and like to revisit the chickens.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so now do you need time to put, Council, I thought you went first, but I forgot
No.
you passed it off.
Yeah, I'm fine with both, but we are probably right. We do need a policy if this is our first one. With the one I'm looking at here, it may be the one that would fit. It's 5 acres. I don't see it adjacent to the small lots. There's 2 other large properties between it and 17. So it, to me, it's all 5 acres. It is a fit, but I do believe we do need a policy. And if he has to come back, that's good to hear that. Then the planning will not charge anymore. There'll be no fees. And if we do get a policy, he may not even have to come. So I'll agree to that. Yeah. And yes, I want, it's great to see an old home go down that's derelict and get a new one put up. That's wish more happened. We have a few of those around. Thank you.
Yeah, I've had my eye on that house for a long time. It's been there for a long time, so I'm excited to see that a house is gonna go up there. Okay, so are you ready with the resolution then, Carrie?
Yes, I can read it as proposed now. So whereas the applicant owner of tax roll number 58500 located at 3316 Raleigh Street has made application for conditional use 6, 2025 to build a single family dwelling on the subject property. Therefore be it resolved that conditional use 6, 2025 be approved with the following conditions. This conditional use is limited to what has been presented in this application. Any further changes, replacements, or additions would require a new conditional use approval. Then the applicant owner to obtain applicable permits from the Red River Planning District and the RM of East St. Paul if required.
Changing something.
One moment, please.
We're rewriting.
Sorry, Madam Mayor, perhaps we'll just change the first condition that this conditional use is limited to the proposed home that's been presented in the application. Any further changes, replacements, additions would require a new conditional use.
Yes.
Abundantly clear. That's
Great. Do we want to reread it or you,
Would you like me to read it just to
please,
be-
just for the record, yes.
The applicant owner of tax roll number 58500 located at 3316 Raleigh Street has made application for conditional use 6/2025 to build a single family dwelling on the subject property. Therefore, be it resolved that conditional use 6/2025 be approved with the following conditions. This conditional use is limited to the proposed home that has been presented in this application. Any further changes, replacements, or additions would require a new conditional use approval. And the applicant owner to obtain applicable permits from the Red River Planning District and the RM of East St. Paul if required.
Thank you. Can I have a mover, please? Counselor Duval, seconded by Counselor Posthumus. Any more comments? Okay, call for the question. All those in favor? And that's carried.
We can vote right away.
Okay, do we want to take 5 minutes?
Sure.
Okay, we're just going to recess for 5 minutes. Okay, council is back and we'll resume the meeting. We'll just do a recap of the public hearing that just happened. I just want to say that it's not that council is opposed to chickens. That this individual is going to take about a year to live in our community. And if we have the time to put together a bylaw that makes sense for the community and chickens, we should do that. That should be our due diligence. We get these public hearing packages on Friday and we're before you on Tuesday. So we don't know what individuals are asking for until Friday night. And so it's best if we take the time and create a bylaw for farm animals. Because I know that into the future, this is where, you know, individuals are moving forward and we encourage people to have gardens and to help sustain their living. But we want to make sure that the municipality is ready for it. And Councillor Posthumus talked to our applicant tonight and he's fine with the decision. He knows that he won't be occupying his home for about a year or better. So I'm sure he'll come back and I'm sure into the future, he'll see that he'll have chickens. Okay. Okay, so we're moving down to, we don't have any bylaws or policies. Under planning, we have 9.1.1, which was a variation order that was tabled from February 25th. And so,
The hearing's closed.
yeah, the hearing's closed, and so we're in discussion. And I can do a recap of, or does someone want to do a recap just to refresh the audience?
Would you like me to read the resolution on the table?
I'll get that read in a minute, but I think we'll just do a recap and we're not talking to the applicant or anybody else. We're just having discussion for council. So just a recap of the variation order.
And Mayor, I'll just go back to the same presentation I did last month, just to
Right.
refresh everyone's memory. So this is for the property at 4015 Ross Farm Road. It was a variance for two types of variances. One was to allow for an increase in the maximum number of accessory structures from 2 up to 4. And one was to allow for the storage of commercial purposes, to allow for some commercial types of vehicles on the property. So those are both stipulations. So that's the property there, and I'll be looking at the GIS map. And here is the site plan, the graphic that the applicant gives that shows us the 4 accessory buildings, structures, and usually by a lot of above ground pool counts as one. That's all I have on that. I do know that you were also, this was also more property look like, and administration took snapshots. I can go through those if you'd like.
Sure.
So you can see the shared surround driveway entrance to the property and the neighboring property.
This is the,
This is the neighbor's property. So. the subject properties on the left. So we have this.
So that's just the neighboring property to the south, kind of an angle look into the backyard of the 4015. You can't really see much because there's that large sea can in the property to the south. It's just, you can't see much from the road. 15.
So we have there, and then I'll just bring up the air photo. Just kind of sums up what's all we were looking at last time. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, so
You want the resolution?
not yet. I think you can read it or we can do it at the end
To refresh your,
in case we change it.
yeah, just
feel like-
refresh your memory of what was on the table in case there are adjustments. So whereas the applicant owner of tax roll number 69807 located at 4015 Ross Farm Road has submitted an application for variation order 2, 2025. The request seeks approval to increase the number of accessory structures on the property from 2 to 4 and to permit the storage of 2 commercial vehicles, provided that no commercial business will be conducted on site. Therefore, be it resolved that variation order 2, 2025 for 4015 Ross Farm Road be approved with the following conditions. This variance is limited to what has been presented in this application. Any further changes, replacements, or additions will require a new variance approval. The 2 work vehicles will include a dump truck and a flatbed trailer.
Thank you. Okay, council, I don't think that there's a question of buildings is our understanding and factual information that the individual purchased the property the way it is today. It was not in compliance when he purchased it. Through bylaw, through a complaint, it was brought to the new owner's attention, and he has done what is supposed to do, is bring the property into compliance. So that's why he's asking for the variation order to have the 4 structures. And my understanding is 2 of them do not need building permits because they're not of size for building permits, and the other 2 will go through because I guess they already had building permits. So I don't think tonight we have a question of whether or not those structures should come into compliance. I support those 4 structures. I think what council couldn't get beyond in the last meeting was the fact that the individual, he does own a landscaping company. So he does bring home his trailer, which is a 28-foot trailer with a skid steer. And he does have a single axle dump truck that he brings home as well. And so I have everything written out here, like complaint wise. So one of the complaints was there was pressure washing. And so I want to say that, and these are my notes, so everybody else will have a chance to provide their notes, but I'm just going to read my notes. So it's a common residential activity to pressure wash. It's used to clean decks, driveways, vehicles, and siding. As long as it's done within the hours of our noise bylaw, it's entirely permitted, and it's not unique to a business. Pressure washing is not unique to a business. Another complaint was starting vehicles. So starting vehicles in the morning, people leave and go to work, and you could have a muffler, or you can have one of those vehicles that has all those noises with the mufflers and everything. And, a 17-year-old kid starts up his car and goes to work. I mean, people start up their vehicles and they go to work. There was complaints about some storage of soil, I think it was, and that's all been rectified. It's all been cleaned up. There's no sign of business. There's no customer traffic. And, there are businesses in that community. Just taking a quick drive, I found a hair salon, I found a trucking company, I found farming equipment, other landscaping equipment, boats, sea cans. The neighboring property has what we just saw, CCAN. So we're seeing that there's equipment in that community, a 5+ acre lot that, you know, in theory, you have these lots because you do have recreation equipment and so forth. Now, I will say that the applicant, he did come forward, he did what was right, and he brought it forward to bring his property into compliance. And for us, we're not supposed to get into like personal disputes with neighbors. We're here for principal governance, transparency, and fair application of policy. So I'm just giving you that recap, and then I'll open the floor up for comments. Councillor Duval.
Yes, I think we're getting hung up on a problem with definition here. What's the definition of commercial property? Commercial property is where basically customers come to the location. They're storefronts. We see them up and down our commercial area here. That is not what's going on over there at 415 Ross Farm Road. When you read the resolution, it refers to commercial vehicles. Well, what is going on there? There's skid steers coming and going to job sites. There's a big difference between commercial and construction, contractor. We have bylaws that allow construction companies to set up. But Rule Route 2 is not one of them. It is not permitted on RR2 property. Now, so what actually is going on there? It's this business has been recognized as a business. You even mentioned that, Madam Mayor, it's a business. It was recognized on Google Maps as a skid steer construction company. Okay. There's a website describing the type of work it can be done. The work isn't done at that site, of course not. It's a construction activity that's done on work sites. So to have a resolution that says he's not allowed to have any commercial activity on the site, that won't be too hard to achieve because he's not in the commercial business. So we have this, and we have contractors around, some over here, that have a similar line of work. They are in a zone that allows for that. And there's no residents around. That is why we have these zoning bylaws. We won't go over all of the complaints that we heard from the neighboring residents, and we heard it all a month ago. How about refueling? You have construction equipment out on the site working, they have to be refueled. You don't put them on a trailer and drag them over to a fuel pump somewhere. And there was a pickup truck with a bulk tank on it at one time. And the bylaw officer asked them to remove it on a pickup truck, not on the stand. So I guess it was removed. But was it ever inspected to see if it was back again? Apparently not. That operation cannot run without a mobile bulk fuel tank. Doesn't work that way. It's interesting to note that I guess I can ask the planner. May I ask the planner a question?
You can, as long as it relates. I mean, I understand that there's some other things that have transpired since the public hearing. So I want to make sure that we're not engaging with applicant or complainants while we're in a public hearing process.
Well, I'll ask the question, and if you don't want an answer, that's
Okay.
fine.
Thank you.
So would this activity have been approved in that Rule RR2 area if it was a fresh application?
Can you clarify fresh application?
Well, if there's just a startup. Like if there's,
Startup.
well, if there was nothing there at all and somebody put an application in, like a conditional use for that kind of activity, contractor business.
So they're not asking for a contract.
I'm just,
They're asking to park a trailer and a single axle
Okay.
truck. We have to be
Here's-
clear on the request.
here's the problem. It's a lot more to it than just parking. It's an active base location for a contracting company. The equipment comes and goes all the time. That is the base. The applicant has admitted he owns no other property anywhere. That's the only property he has.
Actually, that's false because the applicant did admit that he has another location where he has other equipment.
So you heard.
Yeah, I did hear that. I want us to stay on track of what the request is.
Okay.
Councilor Duval, I took a lot of time to.
Madam Mayor, I believe our procedures for debate are that if the chair wants to enter the debate, they have to yield the gavel to the deputy mayor. I'm not sure it's fair to Carrie to answer that question. Because controlling the debate and debating themselves, the chair, that's putting in a conflict situation. It's not.
Well, this will be the first time that it's been brought up.
No,
We've
it's not.
always entered into
Previous mayor
debate.
did it. Previous mayor did it.
No, actually, we never did that, but I will pass the floor on.
Anyway.
I want to debate and I will debate. Councillor
I'll
Imhoff,
finish, I'll finish in a minute, okay?
well, you asked a question.
I did ask the question.
So can we have them answer it?
Would you like to answer it?
Yes.
Okay,
Sorry, could you repeat the question?
okay. Clearly, the operation of that location is a construction contracting business. Construction equipment. Skid steer on a trailer is not a commercial vehicle. And there's a couple of them. Now, hypothetically, I know, what if somebody across the street, down the street wants to set up exactly the same thing, but before he does it, it comes to council, it comes to the planning department and asks the question, would it be allowed?
So if it's coming to council, that would be a council decision, I can answer.
Yeah.
Yes, according to the bylaws as they're written, I should say. According to the bylaws as written, now.
Is it a use, like a permitted use, conditional use? Is that what you're?
Yes, yes, permanent, an activity. Condition, you know.
So in the R2 zone, a home occupation is permitted use. That's allowed. Beyond that. Sure. what you're asking.
Well, as I pointed out earlier, we do, our bylaws, the whole set of them distinguishes between commercial home businesses and other like, and contractors. And we have a few zones that allow contracting. One of them is the industrial zone, of course. But RR2, RR5, and all the other residential zones do not allow contractor activity.
So there's a lot of different uses. I mean, in our zoning bylaw, like. I don't know, 60 years, so there's a lot of uses, so we'd have to kind of see what would be an appropriate use. And then each use is based on a list of factors related to it, so we'd have to think what would even be.
Charles, do you have a question? I can,
I'll let them ping and then,
okay, you can ask me. They're busy.
okay, they're busy. Yeah, 4025's next.
Charles,
4025, the next door property. I guess that's a little larger, so it's not but it must be R5 at least.
That's about a 10-acre piece of property.
It's 10 acre. Okay, it looks like it's some type of a business. It's a market gardener or something.
Maybe I can't, I don't know.
A lot of vehicles and a lot of stuff right there also. And to the question on Councillor Deval said earlier, yes, the applicant did say he had a second piece of property that he had stored other equipment at. I do remember that part. And I don't know if they get to speak later, but yeah, he did say he had a second piece of property.
Yeah, so Counselor Imhoff, do you have anything you'd like to add before I pass the floor off to you? Because I'm gonna form debate.
I can just tell you my view of this thing. The structures, just two pieces to it. The structures were in place. I get that part. And the property owner is just trying to bring things into compliance. This council has approved this many structures and sometimes more previously. Not in the area, don't know, but the owner operator bringing home their work vehicles, commercial vehicles. This council approved a semi low bed that often has things on that low bed parked overnight in a residential area. So to me, that's not really different than what this applicant's asking for. So that's where I stand on this.
Okay, thank you. Do you have an answer now?
I think so. So, a home occupation is a permitted use. Home occupation is defined as an occupation, a trade, a profession, or craft carried on in or from a dwelling unit or its accessory building for consideration, which is clearly incidental or accessory to the residential use of the dwelling. You also have a section of the bylaw that talks about home occupations, and it's limited to 200 square feet of a home. You're not supposed to have outdoor storage, that sort of thing.
You can have an office, yeah.
Yeah, so that's what's that's like the answer.
But trades are permitted.
It says a trade.
Okay, Counselor Posthumous, would you like to add anything?
Yes, we did, in our 17, allow a fellow living in a semi-home and low bed and tractor on it. I won't mention names, but I know along Sparing, we know of and have allowed a contractor close to the RN's office there, but their electrical contractor, whatever, they come and go. They have many vehicles and some bigger ones, like they have a hoist truck and that type of thing. That's in R17. But it's a bigger piece of property too. This is a large piece of property. Yeah, we've allowed others. We just don't, you can't be doing construction work on it. But this is the same. I know on McGregor Farm Road, I've gone down and I see many people with 2 or 3 semis bringing them home, and I imagine they start them in the morning to leave too. And that would be all covered by bylaw. The times. As for the pressure washer, my 2 neighbors do their driveways and they have gas ones and they're very loud. And they have long driveways and they're doing them all summer. So that pressure washer, as long as it's within the hours of the bylaw, they are allowed.
Counselor Duval?
Mr. Planner, is there anything in the bylaws defining what a contractor business is and where it can be located? Contracting, construction contractor. Is that allowed in rule R2? The way the bylaws are written now. And this reference to if somebody has a trailer down the street and another one over there, we have to treat, perhaps they are violating the bylaws too, and we should look into it. Okay.
Definition of land use that you have general contractor establishments. Needs a development used for the provision of building, construction, landscaping. It's an all-encompassing list. Storage of materials, construction equipment, vehicles associated with contractors, contractor service, any sales, display offices. So, for example, if you have a roofer, they might have like materials there so you can pick up what shingles you want, and then they have their trucks and their storage, all that sort of thing. The issue of this application I would say there's no real debate about having a home-based business or even having someone operate a property as a home-based business. It's about the storage of the commercial equipment. That's what the variance is for.
Yes,
Can they have those equipment there or not? That's.
Yeah, we're not-
Business, as I said,
Yes.
it's just about.
yeah, we're not deciding on a business, we're deciding on the request, which is on the,
Bring a trailer home.
which is a 28-foot trailer that houses a skid steer and a single axle dump truck.
That's right, because as I noted, that if home-based business is limited to certain square footage within the home, have an office, and there's not supposed to be storage of equipment, those sorts of things. Now, I would say our office would be a home-based business if there's a contractor, having like your truck or your van, if you're a plumber or something. It's usually a real balance parking.
Yes.
Issue here is about the equipment, that's it, so, yeah, that's important.
I mean, we could consider that most people who have large driveways on large lots typically own skid steers or some form of a tractor that can clear their driveways. They don't shovel them. I mean, that's highly impossible.
Certainly,
maybe-
they're not, they don't rent it out, they don't do other work. For.
Off the property though, right?
Yeah.
Off the
Off
property.
property, yeah.
Yeah, off the property. Okay,
I just. What's to stop somebody in an R17 area from doing exactly the same thing if we allow this for our R2?
we have it.
Where?
On so. I don't know what it's called, but when you go down 202, just past the turnoff where you go to Rebec, so you go 202, just past Garvin, then there's that road that takes you to Rebec. So if you just go up a little bit further, there's like a service road and there's a landscaping company that works there. He takes home all his dump trucks, he takes home his skid steers, his trailers. In this community in particular, there are so many people with equipment. We have semi trucks, there's actually somebody who services semi trucks and cement trucks, and they're all lined up on his property. And he's operating, he's a mechanic. He would be a diesel mechanic, so he's operating a business there. The shops in the community are consistently there. So when you have a shop and you got like a 24-foot door or a 20-foot high door, these shops, they're industrial sized shops that are in the community. We have farmers, there's farmlands, there's a hair salon, that's foot traffic and car traffic. There is boat storage, recreational storage. There's a laundry list of items on these lots. Just consider if you had a 5-acre lot and you weren't allowed to park anything on it, why did you buy a 5-acre lot? Like really consider that, right? I'll form debate and I'll pass the floor off just to satisfy Councillor Duval tonight. I've never done it in the past, but I'm going to do it now. Do I need a resolution for this? Because I've never done it.
Part I'm unclear on, Councillor Duval, do you have a section that you could refer me to?
No, I do not. I know it's in Robert's Rules of Order, it's in the Municipal Act, and I believe it's also in our procedures manual.
Yeah, and it's by
But it's
by
beside-
choice
yeah.
to do it, and we've never done in the past, but I'll do it. I won't do it by resolution because I'm not certain if I have to. Councillor Imhoff, my deputy mayor, I'm going to pass the floor off to you. You will now be chairing and I will form debate. So, Councillor Duval, I'll give you the floor.
All right,
I'll give Councillor Duval the floor.
Oh, sorry. I'm so used to chairing. I'm so sorry.
now you got it.
It's all new to me. I'm sorry.
You can cite all kinds of things around town where there's a truck here and a bobcat there that some private guy has to clear his driveway and everything. But they aren't active as far as I can tell, because I don't know of any of these places. I see a truck here and there and everything, but they're not active in tractors and equipment moving in and out every morning, back at night and every day and on the weekend. And okay, so this applicant says he has other property. Is he going to use that property to park these things? Why doesn't he park them there? Now, these equipments, these skid steers, and I know them very well. They are small, they're compact, they're just packed full of machinery, equipment, engines, hydraulics. They're tremendously complicated and they are rough handling. That's what they're there for. They need regular maintenance. You have to maintain them. Fuel, of course, is one thing. But is that being done at 4015 Frost Farm Road, or is it be done by this other property somewhere?
Well, maybe he's on Garvin getting it serviced with the guy who's servicing on Garvin. I don't know.
Yes.
We don't know where he gets his equipment serviced.
Comes and goes at that location there, and he washes the equipment there because I saw that myself.
Good night, Martin.
I am against this for that reason. It's not the proper activity for a residential area. And if there are others violating it, maybe we should get after them as well. Okay, I'm concluded.
Madam Mayor? Oh, Madam Mayor?
Thank you. I'll say that council stuff written out, so I'll just read it so I don't miss it. Council must apply our bylaws fairly and consistently. It's not appropriate to hold one resident to a higher standard than others, particularly when those raising concerns may have similar conditions on their own properties. The goal is not to target individuals, but to support compliance across the community in a respectful and reasonable way. This council, not even a few weeks ago, permitted unanimously an individual to have a semi-truck with a 53-foot flatbed trailer come to his property daily. He also is parking on provincial lands where we got a provincial complaint and we allowed him to still park there. I do feel that the application before us is not like anything else that we're seeing in that direct community. There is a ton of examples that support them to being similar to neighbors. Just as we saw tonight, a neighboring community has a C-can. Right? C-cans are not permitted in our community. On top of that, trailers and shops, there's businesses being operated there. And so I don't think that we can target this one location and say that it needs to be different from everybody else. And so for that reason, I will support the application tonight. And we can put boundaries around the application too. What is requested is what is permitted. And just to keep in mind that variances can be removed as well. We have those powers as well. And I'm correct in saying that, Mr. Planner, right? We are able to remove a variance
Compliant.
if it's not
If they're
compliant.
not compliant with the conditions.
Yes, yeah. I will say that the individual took it upon themselves to do the right thing, bring it to council, bring it into compliance, and clean up the issues that he had. I understand from bylaw that it was a respectful, it was done in a mannerism that timeframe that he was allowed, and bylaw had no concerns with the issues on the property after it was cleaned up. So for myself, I support the application, and I don't have anything further. And council.
Councilor Duval?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm glad you brought that up, Madam Mayor, with the variance order we approved for parking that trailer that you mentioned. That public hearing took place in March 26th, okay, 24th. Yes, it did. On Sparring Avenue, March 26, 24. And the some of the details around that application, and Councillor Posthumus, it's in your area, you know it very well. He's parking it on this piece of land that's his, and right adjacent to it is empty piece of land that's owned by the Crown, which will never be developed for anything. It'll just remain empty. So the area where he's parking that one truck flat deck, that was in the public hearing. It's bordered by only one residential house. Nothing else around it. Everything else is set back in a, so right against the highway from one direction. And that single house is his own residence. At the public hearing, there was not one objector, either written or in person or online. So there was the public hearing, there was no mention of anybody in opposition to it.
It came to us by complaint.
And there was no complaint mentioned at public hearing. I listened to it, there was no complaint mentioned then. It was brought forward, I believe, by Red River Planning, but for whatever spurred that on. Now, in that particular case, that resident has been doing that, parking a truck there for over 40 years. 40 years. And there's never been any complaint such that it should be brought to the council that I know of. And you can't compare that to this application where the owner purchased that land just a few years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, for the purpose of setting up the activity that's going on there now.
Well, I think he purchased it probably to live in the home.
I believe I have the floor.
Or is Councilor Gonzalez?
Thank you. So that land was purchased immediately before, whatever year or two, who knows the exact time frame, but started right away into that activity. And the applicant admitted that he did not seek approval or seek an opinion from planners in this office, planners at Red River Planning, whether this activity would be allowed. He did not even ask the sales agent, who I believe would, on his behalf, do a little bit of homework. So comparing the two is redundant.
Mr. Chair, I'll ask you to correct.
We have to be very careful, and because we approve one variance order, regardless of what it is, we should approve all variance orders, regardless of what they are. That doesn't make any sense at all. If we do that, we may as well tear up all our bylaws. Each one of them has to be dealt with on its own merit. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Madam Mayor, you had an issue with something the Councilor Gonzalez said?
Yeah, I think that it has to be corrected that that there was no complaint in regards to the sparing. It was complaint driven and it was a provincial complaint as well.
We have it right here.
Yeah.
Was driven.
Councilor Boston.
I believe on all of these, we look at the property as they come up. Like the one which was on Sparing and provincial land side. I'm looking at this one when we had the map up. It looks like there's a business. I'm not sure it's a market garden or whatever with lots of vehicles, just the one to the north of it. The applicant did state when he came, he's seen various trucks coming home, vehicles, tractors in the area. He just thought that was the norm. He did also state when he found out from bylaw, the dumping of the soil and everything, that he would clean it up and he wouldn't do that anymore. As for the vehicles, he came to us and wanted to be in compliance because they were there already, but he wanted to make sure he was in compliance. So that was good that he did that. Now this all came up. There are lots of them we could go around. I know on Wallace, if someone brings a semi home on Wallace and another one brings school buses home on Wallace. Well, you go to school early in the morning, those diesels are starting at 7 in the morning. Is it right? They haven't come to us, but you deal with each property individually. This is 2 acres, it's out there.
No, it's 5 acres.
It's 5 acres. It's a big piece of property. You know, and a lot of the complaints were mostly the starting in the morning. Pressure washing. So you can do that. That's not against our bylaw. You can start a vehicle in the morning to go to work. To me, I would support this. Also, our planner and them are stating that if it doesn't work, this can be taken back. Am I correct on that? You can, the variance can be,
If they don't adhere to your.
if they don't adhere to it, it can be taken up. So that can be done at any time. So they bylaw will be making sure they adhere. And yeah, on that note, I would support this.
Anybody, Councilor Duval?
Yes, I'd like to mention one thing that Madam Mayor mentioned. There was one complaint on the application over on Spearing Avenue, but it was from the province. That vacant piece of land right beside this applicant's yard belongs to the province, and it'll always be that way, a little corner kind of thing over there. That doesn't equate to a complaint from a resident who doesn't like the noise and the activity. That's meaningless.
One from the resident.
Hmm?
Yeah, there was one from the resident in the province. We have 3 formal complaints in the system here.
Well, it was never touched on the public hearing, not a mention of it. Not a mention of it. Okay,
I
now. I lost what I was gonna say next, but that'll come to me, thank you.
Madam Mayor, do you have anything to add?
No, I believe the complaints were in our package though for that public hearing, because I knew that there was residential complaints and provincial complaints. Regardless, that's not the application that's before us tonight. So I'm done with my debate. I'm willing to take the chair back. Can I have the chair back, please?
Councilor Duval, you're done speaking?
Not necessarily, but I'm okay with the chair.
The chair is yours.
Thank you. Okay, council, are we done with comments and questions? Councilor Imhoff,
I have nothing else to add.
thank you. Councilor Posthumous,
I'm fine.
okay, Councilor Duval,
I have one more, now I remember what I was saying. The equipment that comes and goes in there, it's construction equipment, it's trailers, it's bobcats. They're not commercial. Those are not commercial vehicles, they're construction equipment vehicles and items. So our resolution is full of words that say commercial vehicles. You can't, provided that no commercial business will be conducted on site. Wants to park these two commercial vehicles. That's just the wrong wording. As I mentioned earlier, there's a big difference between commercial and construction work. These are construction, period.
So the resolution wording is always based on the application and the public hearing package that's advertised, so that's where it's come from.
commercial vehicles have a C plate. Half ton can be a commercial vehicle, a truck could be a commercial vehicle, a car could be a commercial vehicle. When you're talking about commercial vehicles, are you debating whether it's a commercial vehicle? Having a truck that can pull a trailer, if it has a C plate on it, that makes a commercial vehicle.
I don't think it matters what it says, it's what's on there.
No, actually, a commercial vehicle.
It's a truck with a piece of construction equipment on it. It's asking to be parked there and we refer it to commercial.
You're correct.
What is, let me ask this question in reverse. What do you call a construction? What about a backhoe on a trailer? Is that okay? let's get some definitions a little bit clearer here.
We're not talking about a backhoe, we're talking about a skid steer.
And both of them are construction equipment pieces.
Well, they're used for various things. They could be used for gardening, they can be used for a bunch of things.
Yeah, of course.
Skid steers have a lot of uses, but they're not using it on, and they can use, you can use a skid steer on a property. You can hire somebody to use a skid steer on your property.
Of course, but you can't run a business renting out and contracting road work and.
So be clear, it's the individual does landscaping, he leaves and does his landscaping on someone else's property and comes home.
Yes.
As the chair, I'd like another counselor to have the conversation with Councillor Duval about commercial vehicles and skid steers. I'm gonna just chair it. He needs clarification.
I'm kind of almost lost here with but as far as the classification of a vehicle goes, when it comes to licensing. Anything above the 10,000 pounds or the specified use is considered a commercial vehicle. So this would be more of I don't know if you're looking to get into like the legal argument definition of what it does or whatever, but as far as the registration goes, as far as I know, those are commercial vehicles. That's what they're called and classified as, regardless of their function.
Okay, well, I'm gonna end the conversation. I feel that we have consensus around council, so I'm going to call the question. And maybe I need to have the resolution read one more time, just so we're clear. Thank you.
Whereas the applicant owner of tax roll number 69807 located at 4015 Ross Farm Road has submitted an application for variation order 2/2025. The request seeks approval to increase the number of accessory structures on the property from 2 to 4 and to permit the storage of 2 commercial vehicles, provided that no commercial business will be conducted on site. Therefore, be it resolved that variation order 2/2025 for 4015 Ross Farm Road be approved with the following conditions. This variance is limited to what has been presented in this application. Any further changes, replacement, or additions would require a new variance approval. The 2 work vehicles will include a dump truck and a flatbed trailer, and approval shall expire if not acted upon within 12 months of the date of approval.
Thank you. Okay, call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Item 9.1.2, which is amending a development agreement
Wasn't there another variation?
for resolution, please.
Be it resolved that council adopt the amending development agreement for 2853 Gateway Road. And be it further resolved that the mayor and chief administrative officer be authorized to sign the agreement on behalf of the municipality.
I just need a moment because there was
The mayor, you can.
okay, I'm ready.
They can go if they want. They can
Well, they can stay with us and
stay if you want.
council meeting.
Or
You can leave. Your application was approved.
It's passed.
Yes, yes. Good luck. Okay, I'll have a mover, please. Counselor Postuma, second by Counselor Duval. Okay, I'm gonna speak to this first. Just, I have some wording that I wanted to say. I just want to take a moment to clarify what's before us today and the importance of understanding this for future consistencies.
Thank you, Council.
Thank you.
You, Derek.
This is not a case of the municipality issuing a grant using taxpayers' dollars or spending community money. The $19,543.18 in question was paid by the landowner as part of a development agreement back in 2005. Money that was tied to a specific servicing requirement. In 2016, the then operations manager allowed the installation of a holding tank, meaning the landowner never needed to connect to municipal wastewater services, and he did not connect. That connection never happened, so the fees should have been refunded at that time. Unfortunately, the administration didn't follow through with that process. And the issuing of the refund and updating the agreement didn't occur. What we're doing now is simply correcting that administrative oversight. So the money already belongs to the landowner. We are not giving it away. We're returning funds collected in error. It should never require a council resolution to return money that is rightfully someone else's. This is an example of good governance, the RM holding itself accountable and correcting past confusion. We've had similar issues arise in the past, and I want to be very clear that this is not a political or financial decision. This is an administrative cleanup. The updated development agreement ensures that if and at any time in the future, the landowner chooses to connect to municipal sewer system, that they will pay the responsible fee that's applicable at that time to the current policy. So again, this is about transparency and fairness and making sure we keep our records and commitments clear. So we're not making a decision on the monies. The monies have already been released and returned to the landowner. We are simply just updating the development agreement so that we have accurate information on file. Okay, any other comments or questions? Okay, so I'll call for the question. All those in favor?
Still yes.
That's carried. I just want to be clear for those listening or paying attention in the audience that we're not giving away tax money. We're just giving back money that was owed to somebody. And we kept it far, far too long, 20 years too long, as a matter of fact. And nice of him not to ask for interest, actually.
He didn't even approach to ask for the money back. I was like, you just waited this long to ask.
Yeah. Okay, so moving down to 9.2.1 for resolution.
Be it resolved that pursuant to bylaw number 2010-02 of the Rural Municipality of East St. Paul, Tax Service Inc. be appointed to manage property tax arrears recovery for the Rural Municipality of East St. Paul. And be it further resolved that pursuant to bylaw 2010-02, the following individuals be appointed as tax sale managers for the Rural Municipality of East St. Paul. Donna Zinke, Vice President of Tax Service Inc., or Tyler Burnside, Associate of Tax Service Inc.
Okay, can I have a mover, please? Councillor Postuma, second by Councillor Duval. Any questions or comments? Call for the question. All those in favor? That's carried. And 9.2.2 for resolution.
Whereas the Rural Municipality of East St. Paul submitted an application to the Manitoba Growth, Renewal and Opportunities Funding Stream for the purchase of a pumper rescue truck. And whereas the RM's application was approved, subject to the signing of a project contribution agreement, which must be returned to the Minister of Municipal and Labor Relations by March 28, 2025. And whereas the Chief Administrative Officer will be unavailable to sign the agreement before the deadline, therefore be it resolved that Council authorize Carrie Florin, Assistant Chief Administrative Officer, to sign the Manitoba Growth, Renewal and Opportunities Project Contribution Agreement on behalf of the Chief Administrative Officer in their absence.
Thank you. Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Postuma, seconded by Councillor Imhoff. I'm just going to read the letter that was written to us so that everybody understands. Thanks, Kara. Okay, so we received, the municipality through the mayor received a letter from the Minister of Municipal and Northern Relations. And it says, I am pleased to inform you that your municipality has been approved to receive a funding contribution of up to $654,628 for the pumper rescue truck purchase project. Under the Manitoba Growth, Renewal and Opportunities for Municipalities Program, Manitoba Grow, administered by the Department of Municipal and Northern Relations. A contribution agreement outlining the terms and condition of this funding will be sent to you shortly. Please note that this agreement must be signed and returned to Manitoba no later than March 28th, 2025, as funding will be advanced in full by the end of the 2024-2025 fiscal year. So it goes on to say that our government is committed to work with municipal partners to build strong and healthy communities. This includes building a strong policy funding framework that supports programs such as Manitoba Grow to address critical infrastructure needs for Manitoba municipalities through shared priority projects. I wish you success with your project. And it's signed by the Minister of Municipal and Northern Relations, Honorable Glenn Simard. We thank the province this evening for accepting our application and its contribution to our pumper rescue truck. I don't know when we're receiving it. Councillor Imhoff was on the committee. Maybe he can give us a bit of a update on our truck, if there's any.
Yeah, I don't have an updated timeline yet, but it was from the time that we entered into the contract, it was expected to be 27 months. So we're a little over a year into it. So we have some time coming. I just want to add a comment that when we got presented with the grant application that was going forward, I commented at the time how I thought it was very, very, very well written. And I was very impressed with it. That has really proven itself out. So, I mean, congratulations to our administration. They did a great job on this. So.
Our CAO is not with us tonight. We have our assistant CAO. So I'd like to give her a compliment on working with, I assume, everybody in administration, but her efforts in putting this application forward and her success in achieving the grant.
I'd also compliment our fire department for showing us the need and getting on it early. That we're over a year or more ago that obviously the prices have gone up a lot and we locked in a very good price back then. And had we started now, it would be a lot more. And again, the province giving us 650,000 towards it. That's awesome. And the rest of our staff are making the application.
Okay, so I'll call for the question. All those in favor? It's carried. So we'll move down to correspondence. The Red River Basin Commission provided us meeting minutes, which is fantastic. I don't know that this is new, right? I think Sandra brought this to the board.
Yeah.
So do our members have anything that they want to update us or inform us when it comes to Red River Basin? We have Councillor Imhoff and Councillor Posthumus that are on the board. Anything you would like to include that isn't written or something you want to tell us?
Well, this will be for the meeting coming up and they're giving you the speakers that will be there. And they just sent it out to us so we all know. We did have our fundraiser last week and I thank all of the council coming to it. It was sold out. It went very well and it was great to see the presentation from Red River Cleanup. They do an amazing job cleaning up all the way down the river. They do East St. Paul, Highland Park and along the river, right through Sucker, right to the end to Netley at the end there. And that's run by St. Clement's natural resource officer who does this, puts all his time in for nothing and he does this and it hires lots of students. They clean up our river banks and it was quite shocking to see the stuff that they were showing us that was left where construction companies dump drywall and they don't want to go to the dump and pay and they were dumping all kinds of stuff. mattresses, there were fridges, microwaves, just everybody dumping stuff and all summer they're cleaning it up. It was a great presentation. For the counselors that left, they did get the endowment fund, which they didn't know they were getting. They got an extra $7,000, which would, matching dollars will probably give them another student for the summer, or a lot of garbage bags. So that was, they were quite happy to get that. And there was a great presentation on the Netley Legal Marsh. They found a new way that cost a lot less to build the reefs up so the cattails and the vegetation grow, and that takes the nutrients out of the water into the plants and out of our lake, which we've noticed in the last year's the amount of algae on beaches and everywhere. So they also have the indigenous people part of it, and the indigenous students harvest the cattails. They also save the seed and replant them all once some more of the reefs are growing. So that was another great presentation. And this one, if anybody else, public can come to March 31st. This one is in St. Paul. And there are the speakers there, Interlake Watershed, Lake Winnipeg Foundation, Manitoba Environment and Association of Watersheds. So if any public are allowed to come to. That's,
So just to be clear, there are minutes from the September 9th meeting.
pardon me?
There are minutes. It's not just the agenda.
Oh, okay.
Counselor Imhoff?
Yeah, just to add to Councillor Posthumus's comments, the this particular meeting minutes was the North chapter.
Yeah.
The overall basin, I wasn't able to get to the last meeting they had, but just an interesting sort of bit of information. The amount of money that the state, federal government and the corporate sponsors south of the border pour into looking at ways of improving the health of the river, and in the end, like Winnipeg, it's astounding the amount of money that is being pushed down there. The executive director for the Red River Basin Commission has worked fairly closely with some of the corporate donators that they can use some of that. They're going to move some of that money up here to work with our agricultural producers on this side of the border to improve some of the methodology and the nutrient capture from the border north to the lake, which hopefully we'll see the real fruits of that. And then, you know, the city of Winnipeg getting their plant under control and you know, reducing the amount of negative influence into that river would be a huge bonus for us. But so I think that arm on one of the speakers that's going to be here on the 31st will probably touch on some of those programs that involve the agricultural producers north of the border here. So it's the Basin Commission is doing a lot of very, very, very good work.
Counselor Duval?
Yeah, further to Councillor Posthumus, Rob Belanger and his crew, they also clean up the floodway.
Yes.
And the floodway has a path all the way from one end to the other, so some sections are used quite frequently, and there's parking lots along the way, as you probably are aware, and they clean up that too. The meeting coming up on March 31st, you mentioned it doesn't say on this where
It is in East St. Paul.
Where in East St. Paul? Right here, okay.
Sorry. Yeah, it's right here in East St. Paul.
Okay, thank you.
Counselor Postum?
Yeah, I'd like to add with both councillors saying it's amazing when we go down there to see what they're doing, and at the annual meeting, they had some pretty interesting stuff that they are helping get the sturgeon back going. They said, unfortunately, the sturgeon they get going like to come back to us, and we get them in the lake, so they're giving us free fish. The sturgeon are also zebra mussels, which was interesting, and so are carp. Silver bass. So there was a lot of other things they looked at. They've done a bathymetry through the whole Red River. They're doing a lot of other things, but and also our LiDAR that we did get, that was from the Red River Basin through I think the University of Minnesota. And we got that for free. It's about a $2.5 million worth of LiDAR that us being part of the basin get to use for free.
Thank you. I only attended one conference since being an elected official, and it was at the Vork Gary Hotel, if you remember that year. And I do recall a small community just south of the border standing up, and they weren't exactly happy with the amount of money they were provided because they only got 150 million. And so it was shocking to hear those numbers, right? Because
Yeah.
we don't, yeah. So it was interesting. So it's great. I mean, it's great because it all flows this way and it helps us out.
And they're willing to share it all. This is good.
Okay, so other than that, we are going to see a large increase to our school tax. 25.75%. And how we know that is because our tax levy was $12 million annually in the last year. And this year we got a request for just over 15 million. So that's a $3 million increase. And so I requested that the school trustee come as a delegation to our council meeting for council to ask some questions. We don't get asked questions. We find out typically in the media because they find out before us usually. And then we get our letters of the request for the year. Those monies, of course, are collected by municipalities. We have to provide that money up front to the school board, whether somebody is on a TIPS program or whether an individual pays their taxes. If they don't pay their taxes, it's up to the municipality to chase that money for the school board. So we do a lot of work for the school board when it comes to tax levy. I would appreciate if the school trustee would come and speak to us so that the community could hear and we could ask some questions. Why a mill rate that should have been, in my opinion, adjusted to the large tax assessment increase in our community. So we have not been successful with that request to date, but we are continually trying to get that meeting. And I'll update you as those conversations continue. So apart from that, I don't have anything else to add. We do have a thank you note in our package. So I will read the thank you note because we cherish thank yous from our elected officials and municipal staff, because I will say that, you know, not every phone call is a friendly phone call. So our staff are really at the front lines and we appreciate them. And I think that there are community members that appreciate you guys as well. So this thank you letter in particular came to our CSOs. And so it has a big thank you on it. And it says, thank you so much for taking such good care of our city, juggling personal lives you continue to deliver. Knowledgeable care, compassion, and respect. I don't know where we would be without you. Please know you are respected and appreciated a lot. A very grateful senior. So we appreciate that, and we appreciate that she appreciates the program.
Yeah.
That is a new program, year old, and it's doing well. So thank you very much to that grateful senior. We don't know who you are, but we do appreciate your thank yous. So we're going to move in camera. We won't be in camera very long. We'll probably be done in about, the council meeting should be done in about the next 15 minutes. So anybody in the crowd can just wait outside of the resolution to move in camera.
Be it resolved that council now move in camera as per section 152(3) of the Municipal Act to discuss business development matters. And be it further resolved that all matters discussed while in camera are to remain confidential as per section 83(1)(d) of the Municipal Act.
Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Duval, second, Councillor Imhoff. Call for the question. All those in favor? That's carried. Council is coming out of camera. Can we have the resolution?
Be it resolved that council now moves out of camera.
I have a mover, Counselor Postuma, second by Counselor Imhoff. Call for the question. All those in favor? That's carried. And now the resolution to adjourn.
Be it resolved that the meeting be adjourned, the time being 7:52 PM.
I have a mover, Counselor Imhoff, seconded by Counselor Duval. Call for the question. All those in favor? The meeting is now adjourned.